Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you are going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation, it reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? Well, my brother, my story, it goes on like this. I am only aged 37 years old. Even though I am only aged 37 years old, I have been married 5 times, and all of these women that I have stayed with, they have all passed away. And my brother, them passing away, it is because of the covenant that my grandfather had. I can say that my grandfather had a covenant with a demon. This was a very long time ago. And whenever I stay with a woman, once she tells me that she has fallen pregnant for me, then I will know that her days on this earth are numbered. Because when my grandfather did this covenant with the demon, my offspring, or I can say that his offspring, they are supposed to be sacrificed to that same demon. Well, in this generation, I am the one who is holding on to this covenant. Most of my relatives, soon after the passing away of our fathers, then they decided to try something else. But as for me, since my father promised me that I have to keep respecting this covenant, well, I took all of those things that he once had, the ones that he used as on his altar back at the farm that belongs to my grandfather. Now I am staying in the city, but I do have this altar. I have this altar in my room. I have a separate room that is not allowed. I do not allow anyone to enter into that separate room, and I stay alone in this very big, beautiful house. The covenant is that I have to stay alone at all the times. But as for me, I do not sleep with spiritual wives because it is not part of that deal. What happened for my grandfather, for him to end up to be where he was at the time of his death, was that my grandfather, he used to be a war collaborator, but he used to pass out information against his own people, like the black people. My father, when it was during the times of war in the village, he was one who still had a lot of livestock. So a lot of these guerrilla fighters, they would come, then they would gather at his homestead, and then he would slaughter a goat, even a cow for them. But my grandfather, he was wise, because he would go and pass out that information to the white farmers that were surrounding our village. It then happened that one night, when these comrades were busy discussing everything that they were discussing, because they trusted my grandfather a lot, and then they told my grandfather that they wanted to go on an assassination spree. They wanted to make sure that all the white farmers that were in that area, all of them, they were going to die, and they were planning to assassinate all of these white farmers, including their wives, their kids, even their workers, the ones that worked like as maids and as gardeners as well. Well, on the night when the first murder was supposed to happen, it was said that my grandfather then sent my father, and my father ran throughout the night, and he went to that farm, to that old white farmer who was supposed to become the first target. And then after that white farmer had called for backup, and when those white Rhodesian soldiers came, then those guerrillas that were already close to that white farmer's house were all captured. Then they ended up revealing a lot of plans as to where the rest of the comrades were hiding in that same mountain that is very close to our village. Then my father, as a token of appreciation, he was given a small box that was full of gold coins. Soon after independence, it was said that that same old man, he then said that he wanted my father to buy off a piece of his farm. Then my father returned back the gold coins to him. That is how my grandfather ended up with the farm that he had until the time that he passed away. And after he had passed away, since my father had already been taught how to perform most of the rituals, my father, he was the one who inherited that farm. Right now, after the passing away of my father, I am the one who inherited that farm where we keep a lot of cattle. After my father, after my grandfather had started keeping livestock, he then went back to that traditional healer who had once given him charms in the times of war. He wanted those charms so that the comrades will never suspect that he was actually selling them out to the white Rhodesians. So after the wars, my grandfather said, I do not need this charm anymore, but rather transform this charm so that it can be a charm of good luck, now that he had a lot of livestock, because when he returned back those gold coins, he was given a lot of livestock. So my grandfather said, I have already used all of these gold coins that were given to me as a token of appreciation. Well, if I am going to lose this land or the livestock, then it means that I will return back to poverty. My grandfather then told that traditional healer who had once assisted him and said, please transform this charm so that it can be like a protector to protect my livestock and to keep them safe, making sure that they will never suffer from diseases that will end up wiping all of my livestock. Then that traditional healer, it was said that the traditional healer took the charms that he had given my grandfather. He then gave my grandfather a black chicken, and he told my grandfather that he was supposed to go and bury this black chicken when it was still alive. He had to bury it, and one thing that he was supposed to do was that he had to select one amongst his sons, the one that was going to respect this covenant forever and pass it on to the next generation. Already in his mind, my grandfather had chosen my own father because of his great bravery that he had showed during the times of war. Then my grandfather, and when he returned back to the farm, he then took my father and they went and selected one amongst his many paddocks where we keep all of our cattle. Then what he did was that they started digging and they buried that black chicken as it was still alive, and this rituals, they continued and continued. So each and every year after my grandfather had died, he was buried at that same farm, but at that time it was only his grave that was there. As for my grandmother, when she died, she was returned back to her people. Then my father told me that the reason as to why he had gotten divorced from my mother, it was not like he never loved my mother anymore, but it was part of that ritual. He was supposed to die as a single man. So now back at the farm, my grandfather is the one who is lying there in his grave, as well as my father. And when I die, I am supposed to be buried right next to my father. Then what happened to my father was that when we were growing up, each and every year, 3 times a year, my father was supposed to select a bull amongst his many cattle that had been left behind by our grandfather. And if he would not sacrifice any bull throughout the year, then one of our relative will die. So this caused a lot of our relatives to start going to church and fighting off these spirits, this covenant that our grandfather had with us, with that demonic powers. So this caused my father to hate most of his relatives. Well, then with time, when my father passed away, I was then given his charms, the charms that he had been given by his own father. So the things that were given to me, there is a blade that was a knife that was given to me. This knife, it is a traditional hunting knife, the ones that have a wooden handle. And then I was given a small walking stick, you know, those small walking stick. It is designed, it has a lot of different garments designed on this small stick that was given to me. It has several designs, and whenever I get married, what I am supposed to do is that I return back to the farm, and then I speak with my grandfather, and I speak with that powerful force that made it possible for my grandfather to survive throughout the wars, even when he was playing dangerous. I speak with that powerful force, and then after speaking with it, I then tell it that back at my place where I am staying in the capital city of our country, there is a new woman that I am staying with, and me staying with this woman, it is not because I am in love love with that woman, but I am just respecting the covenant that was there even before when I was born. So after speaking with that spirit, I then leave the knife. Usually it's either I leave it on top of my grandfather's grave or on top of my father's grave. Then I returned back to the city. Soon after, this woman would have fallen pregnant for me. I quickly go and then I pay the lobola for her. Back in those days when I married the first time, the second time, my relatives, they used to accompany me, but they ended up just saying, we cannot do this with you anymore because you have chosen the other side. When they saw that my third wife had passed away when she was heavily pregnant, they then realized that all of these things that I was doing, I was not searching for my true love, but what I was looking for, I was actually doing some rituals using the woman and the mother for my rituals. I have been doing this, my brother, for a very long time. So the day that I met the woman who later became the mother of my child, the covenant, the altar had already told me that I was supposed to drive and just hang around UZ, and that is where I met up with a woman who I later impregnated, and she gave birth to my son. I was told that under no circumstances was I supposed to let her come to my house. So throughout my relationship with her that we had for only 2 months, I used to sleep with her in the car because I was not allowed to go with her inside any house. So we slept in the car. Whatever that we did in the car, and I used to give her a lot of money. But unlike the other women that I have dated, this one, she was said that she was not supposed to die because she was given that honor of raising my child. And after my child is matured enough, I am supposed to take him so that I can show him our ways, and then when I die, he would be the one who has to continue taking care and respecting this covenant. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear brother. Keeping the covenant, that is his story.